Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Freedom and Legacy question and answer call. During this Visioning Week, we have had so many people join us for Freedom and Legacy 2026, and we are so excited about the group that's coming together and eager to get started with bringing those future selves into reality. I am joined here by Rachel, my right-hand woman, my director of communications. Many of you know her. Those of you that don't, you are in for a treat getting to know her. And we are here to share some of the frequently asked questions that we have heard from prior years in Freedom and Legacy that we're hearing this week. We're getting text messages and DMs and questions. And so we wanted this to be a time where we can focus on Freedom and Legacy, answer any questions you may have. We have some prepared questions of the frequently asked questions that have come into us over time. And then this is also a time that you can drop your questions into chat and we'll answer those live as well. Our goal is that by the end of the session, you feel as though you have all of the information to make a decision for yourself if Freedom and Legacy is the next best step for you. We obviously hope that you'll join us and that you'll see the tremendous value in this coaching and in this community and this container. And we want you to feel as though you have all of the information you need to make that decision. So with that, Rachel, why don't you get us started with our questions?
Wonderful. Well, thank you guys for joining us today. Just like Elaine said, feel free to pop whatever question comes to mind into the chat and we'll make sure that we address that. But in the meantime, we have a handful of questions that were sent ahead of time. And this is a big question, but it's one of my favorite ones. Who is Freedom and Legacy Blueprint for? Who is this program designed for?
Yeah, excellent question. So if you are in this call, chances are you've experienced some or all of the Visioning Week. If you haven't, all of those replays are out in your email. You can take a look at those. You see in Visioning Week the connection to your future self. You see the connection to wanting more out of life than just a default life, than just going day to day, year to year, and just letting life kind of pass you by. Freedom and Legacy is designed for those types of people who know that they want more out of life, they want to feel better in life. People coming into Freedom and Legacy, oftentimes they generally feel pretty good, right? They're living a good life, things are going pretty well, but they know that they strive for more. I would say that people in Freedom and Legacy are hungry for more connection, more joy, more abundance, more financial resources, financial independence, taking more control of their time, changing maybe structures of their career or cutting back or taking sabbaticals or even going off and starting businesses, real estate portfolios, people that are kind of movers and shakers in lots of different domains in life. People in Freedom and Legacy are people who want to grow, who want to be inspired, who want to be held in a community with other high performers and constantly stretching themselves and connecting even more to their future selves and doing so in a loving, supportive container. Kind of all of those things together. When I first created Freedom and Legacy, many people know me through Black Swan Real Estate and kind of assumed that I might create, say, a coaching program around real estate investing. And although we incorporate a lot of that into Freedom and Legacy, I instinctually knew that there's so much more to life than real estate investing. There's so much more to life than financial freedom. And that I, as a psychiatrist and a studier of human behavior and human development, I know that real freedom is about how we feel inside. Real freedom is about psychological freedom and nervous system regulation. And so when I created Freedom and Legacy Blueprint, it was designed from the very beginning to cover all of the domains in life. And we have this beautiful, rich, multifactorial group where we have people who are running private practices, people who are employed, people who are retired, people who are parents, people who are parents of young children or children who have already flown the nest, people who are married, unmarried, like you name it, there's a whole spectrum inside of Freedom and Legacy. But the thing that links all of us together is wanting to have wellness and wholeness in all of the domains of life and having that hunger and that zest for the next level of life.
I know that some of our members have called Freedom and Legacy Blueprint everything coaching. I think when we're answering this question of who is Freedom and Legacy Blueprint for, we could almost call it everyone coaching. There is something here for everyone. So that was just such a beautiful way to capture who this program is for. Hopefully, that sounds like you in some capacity. Um, Many of our members have shared that they have busy schedules. That's one of the most common questions that we get. I'm so busy, what if I can't make every session? So, if you could speak to that a little bit, Elaine, I think that would really resonate with the people here.
Yeah, 100%. Rachel and I kind of joke with each other that not even Elaine, have attended every single Freedom and Legacy coaching call over the many years that we've run it. There's been some calls that we have some guest coaches. The people in Freedom and Legacy have big lives, right? No one that is attracted to Freedom and Legacy is sitting around with tons of spare time on their hands and, a lack of hobbies or important relationships or travel or career or other things that keep us busy, right? That create these really full, magnificent, amazing lives that we have. Everyone's busy. Some of the things that we do in Freedom and Legacy to deliver maximum value is we have weekly calls. And we don't do that so that you feel pressure that you have to show up every single week. I would estimate that people probably attend live, maybe about half of the calls or so, and then they're catching the other calls in the replays, and we'll talk about that as well. We also run our calls for several hours. And again, that's not so that you're thinking, oh gosh, I have a multi-hour commitment on my calendar tonight. My saying is come when you can, leave when you need to. We want to make sure that we're covering a wide swath of the evening. People are joining from literally all over the world, certainly all over the United States and the different time zones there. So we meet once a week so that there's that consistency and that structure. We get the replays out to you the very next day, both in video format, in the Kajabi platform, and then also in the private podcast if you want to listen more like audio style, like podcast style, just as you're driving or washing dishes or walking the dog, that sort of thing. And then we have those our calls are a few hours long so that you can come when you can and leave when you need to. And that way we make sure that we have time for teaching, we have time for open coaching, we have time for connection. What I find is that as people go through the program in Freedom and Legacy, we spend a lot of time talking about priorities and values. And people find that they lower the amount of time that they're spending on activities that drain them, that don't move the needle for them, that they don't enjoy doing, that aren't high value activities. We talk a lot about time management and escalating the value of our time. And so even with the additional time commitment from Freedom and Legacy, people have more time in their calendars, more abundance in how they manage not just their time, but their energy, because they're more aligned with where they want to go. So if you're feeling like, gosh, I'm not sure about the time, you are in good company. I would estimate that's probably 99% of people in Freedom and Legacy, because we're all living big lives. But we talk about time management, we talk about energy management, and then structurally, I've created the program so that it's very accessible, very available to you. You get a ton of value out of it. You don't have to feel any pressure whatsoever to make it to every single call. Very, very, very few members do. You have access to those replays. You have the daily connection in the WhatsApp group, the in-person events. There's all sorts of ways to fill your cup with the program throughout the year.
While we're on the subject of time management, for those of you who are ready to move forward, but you're kind of wondering how will this fit into my schedule because I've heard there's these events, or I know that coaching happens during the evenings. Elaine, could you speak a little bit to what time the coaching calls are, what nights of the week they are, and then what are these two big events that we've kind of talked about during the visioning workshops?
Yeah. So we get started right away. We have 2 complimentary calls in December. So even though we call Freedom and Legacy a year-long program, it's really a 13-month program because we don't want there to be any dead space between when we wrap up Visioning Week and when we get started in January. We want to make sure we keep that momentum going, we get you introduced to the community, get you excited about the program right away. So our first call is on Wednesday, December 3rd at 7 p.m. Central. We'll go from about 7 to 9:30 p.m. Central. Our next call in December is Wednesday, December 17th, also at 7 p.m. Central. That's a really beautiful call where we're going to do this beautiful, expansive year-end reflection. People rave about that call. It's really a ton of fun. And then in Q1 of 2026, all of our calls will be on Tuesday evenings. Throughout the entire year, our calls are at 7 p.m. Central. We generally go for about 2.5 hours. Again, come when you can, leave when you need to. And in 2026, we're stabilizing our schedule a little bit. So our calls in quarter 1 and quarter 3 will be on Tuesdays. And in quarter 2 and quarter 4 will be on Wednesdays. You'll get that in a PDF calendar. You'll get subscribed to a digital calendar so that all of those appointments are automatically synced with your schedule. You'll have the Zoom link. And then, as I've mentioned before, we get those replays out the very next morning, both in video format and in kind of podcast audio only format. Excuse me with my cough this week. It's been a lot of speaking this week, so my voice is kind of struggling just a little bit. I appreciate your grace there. And then in terms of our in-person events, those are amazing. Those are an optional part of Freedom and Legacy, but people love them. It's important to me that I make it very accessible for people to meet in person because there's just something that's so rich and unique about that in-person experience. So as part of your membership in Freedom and Legacy Blueprint, you get 4 complimentary tickets to Black Swan Real Estate's Real Estate Real Life annual event. This year, it's September 17th through the 20th in Rochester, Minnesota. This is our 5th year running this event, and it coincides with Freedom and Legacy so well. We talk about real estate. We talk about financial planning and goal setting and what you want in the financial aspects of your life. We do a lot of real estate education. We tour a substantial portion of the Black Swan real estate portfolio so that you're not just getting a book education, you're getting a hands-on experience. That's what separates it from, reading a news article or a blog article or that sort of thing. And then in the real life portion, we take what we learn in Freedom and Legacy and we make it very immersive in that weekend. We talk about the power of compounding, the power of habits, of building the life that you really want to live, and how small changes add up over time to create that monumental change. We do a super transformative breathwork experience. I'll teach you how to do breathwork in Freedom and Legacy, even if you've never even heard that word. People absolutely love it. Breathwork is basically just laying comfortably on your back. I'll guide you through breathing. I'll say, breathe in, breathe out, breathe at this tempo, take a deep breath, take a shallow breath. I'll guide you through breathing. And it puts people into a bit of a transcendental state. It's like a very deep meditative practice where you can really explore your inner workings and what you really want in life. And I would say what typically happens at Real Estate Real Life is people who have done breathwork before are like excited. They're like, it's my favorite part of the event. I can't wait. And inevitably, this is what happens for Rachel and I, and for my husband, Nick, who runs the event with me. Everyone thinks they're the only one that says this. They'll say, I wasn't going to come to breathwork, but I decided to come because I wanted to, I wanted to check it out, or, my roommate was coming, or someone said, I wanted to be respectful to you, Elaine, so I decided to show up. And as it turns out, I loved it. It was the coolest experience ever. I can't wait to do breathwork again. So that's Real Estate Real Life, and you get 2 complimentary in-person tickets for Real Estate Real Life. Our hope is that you can join us live in person and get to meet in person or see again in person your Freedom and Legacy peers. And then you also get 2 virtual tickets so that if you need to join us virtually, you're able to do so, or you can gift those to a friend or a family member or a colleague so that they can get that immersive weekend-long experience in real estate education and in mindset education. And then in addition to that event, we have an optional add-on event that's a Freedom and Legacy exclusive invitation only. So no one from the general public, only our Freedom and Legacy members can come to that. We have that once a year. This year we have that tentatively planned for the first weekend in November 2026. I'm thinking it will be check-in on either the 4th or the 5th of November and check out on either the 8th or the 9th of November. I'm working with the venue on finalizing the details. That'll be in Arizona. That's as much as I can share right now because I don't have things signed yet with the venue, but suffice it to say, it's an amazing place. It would be just a really special time that we're there together with no one else. And we do some coaching, we do some meditation, we share beautiful meals together, we share beautiful scenery. This past year, we went to a place right outside of Zion National Park, and we rented a large wedding venue so that we were all together under one roof. We essentially had our own private resort. We had our own swimming pool and sauna and hot tub and pickleball courts and walking trails and labyrinth and you name it. We did a beautiful hike inside of Zion National Park. We had coaching sessions all day. I brought in a couple of outside facilitators to guide us through some additional exercises. And it was just an incredibly joyful, rejuvenating weekend. That's what we're going to create again this year in the first weekend of November in Arizona. And I should have the final details in terms of the location and then those exact dates probably within the next 2 weeks or so.
I can't spoil anything, but I am so excited for that retreat in November.
Yes, a
But
couple
you
of
have
our
to take my word
existing,
for it.
a small number of our existing Freedom and Legacy members know where it will be because I wanted to check with them of like, do you love this place as much as I do? And they all are like salivating, like, where can I sign up? I'm ready to go. Let's make it happen.
It's going to be amazing. Absolutely. I'm so
Yeah.
excited for that. And for Real Estate Real Life. That's always one of my absolute favorite weekends of the year. Despite the long hours, it's just incredible. We had a couple questions come into the chat about CME, which is new to Freedom and Legacy Blueprint this year. So anything that you could speak to towards CME, Elaine, I think would be great. How many hours of CME can we earn? Can you help me push this through as a CME cost for my employer? And anything else that you can add?
Yes, yes, absolutely. We are so excited about being accredited for CME. I knew intuitively as a psychiatrist from the very beginning of Freedom and Legacy that the things that we did qualified for CME, but it takes a bit of effort to be fully credentialed to offer CME. So we have partnered with a group called Pinnacle, and they help to manage the joint accreditation with what you need to get CME. So we are fully approved for 30 hours of Category 1 AMA CME. We have documentation that if you needed to submit that like to your employer or your hospital or whoever would potentially be reimbursing you for Freedom and Legacy, it would show that the program was accredited for those 30 hours. And then one thing to also note, this is getting a little into the weeds, but we will also have Real Estate Real Life accredited for CME. And because you get those tickets complimentary, I'm thinking that we'll be able to get 6 hours of CME for Real Estate Real Life accredited. So you would actually be getting 36 hours if you came either virtually or in person to Real Estate Real Life and you were able to show your attendance for that event. And again, that's just included in your membership. So you get 30 hours of CME for Freedom and Legacy itself, and then 6 hours of CME for Real Estate Real Life. And then I'm working on getting the Freedom and Legacy exclusive event accredited for CME as well. I think that would likely be another 6 hours. Freedom and Legacy and Real Estate Real Life are locked on those. So let's call those 36 hours. And then I anticipate we'll be able to get another 6 hours for that exclusive event as well. Very excited about that. We have that paperwork. If that was a question for you, Rachel, you can email Rachel and she can give you an example of what that paperwork would look like. You would have that plus the receipt. We've done all sorts of things over the years where we've written letters for people's hospital boards or their CEO if there may be a smaller practice or whatever people need that have helped them in the past get kind of more informal reimbursement from their hospitals or their employers. But now with our partnership with Pinnacle, we're officially accredited for that CME, which should make it a lot easier for people to potentially get reimbursed for CME. That credit also applies for there's several different other boards that it applies for. So it applies for nurses, pharmacists, physician assistants, social workers, psychologists, optometrists, dietitians, athletic trainers, and interprofessional continuing education. So if one of those is your professional board, Pinnacle has us certified for all of those. Most people who would be joining Freedom and Legacy would be getting the AMA, CME, the 30 hours. And then if you are not a physician or you wouldn't, say, be using your CME dollars, many people are able to deduct the expense of Freedom and Legacy as a business expense because we do business education, we do real estate education. So we've written letters for that for people as well to have that documentation to share with their CPA, for example. if you're in a situation like that and you have a question like that, email me, email Rachel. We've written lots of those letters over time. We do everything we can to make it as tax efficient as possible. And then we're really excited this year to have that official CME as well.
For those of you who are with us live, I did just put my email into the chat, but if you're listening or watching the replay, it's Rachel, Rachel, at blackswanteam.com. Feel free to email me whatever questions you have about that. Like Elaine said, we've written letters. We can give you sort of that documentation for CME, for the program, for events, anything like that. You ask, we'll put it together and send it to you. So feel free to email Rachel at blackswanteam.com and we will make that happen. Great questions. We are so excited about CME this year for the coaching program for Real Estate Real Life. I think it's just such a wonderful addition.
Yeah. Someone on here sent a private message to me asking about a specific situation with their CME, but it only says iPhone. So if you could send me your name and your email address, we can answer that question for you via email.
Awesome.
I need to know who you are to reach you.
Yes. Um, Since we had touched on real estate real life, I think that's kind of the perfect segue to talk about the real estate side of the program. So for the people who are here who are interested in being either active or passive real estate investors, what kind of material is there for them? And then the opposite side of the coin, I also had a question, what if I'm not really interested in real estate? Is this not the program for me?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. When I first created Freedom and Legacy Blueprint, at that time in my life, I was spending the majority of my time running Black Swan Real Estate. That's how most people had come to know me over time. Maybe I had done some real estate coaching with them, or they knew me through Real Estate Investor Physicians, a large Facebook community that I've administered for the last, I think, almost 10 years now. Maybe they'd seen me speak at a conference, those sorts of things. And when I mentioned a little earlier in the call, when I created Freedom and Legacy, I instinctually knew that it needed to be about so much more than just real estate investing. What I like to say to people is we can all name someone who had their entire financial house in order, right? Financially free many, many, many times over, and yet still struggled with that freedom piece, right? Struggled with anxiety or depression or substance use or suicide, right? Like we know that. And then conversely, we know of people in the world that literally have nothing, and yet they have a sense of inner peace and they have very rich lives and are very happy in their life. Financial freedom is what I like to call the structural base of real freedom, but real freedom comes from within. Real freedom comes from the way we think of our own selves, the stories we tell ourselves, the way we regulate our nervous system, how we interact in the world, how we're living out our identity, living out our values. And so it was always so important to me that Freedom and Legacy have a big piece of both of those. If you are interested in real estate, you will be in good company. I would estimate that probably somewhere between 80 and 85% of people in Freedom and Legacy are doing some type of real estate investing. And within that, it's a wide spectrum. Some of them are getting their first single family home or their first short-term rental. Many of them are serving as general partners. We heard from Aditi during Visioning Week. She raised $8 million of capital, in this year alone to place into large multifamily and land deals. So it's the whole spectrum there. Inside of Freedom and Legacy, we have a whole, what I call real estate course within a course. That course alone rivals the other courses that you might be able to find out there related to real estate education. Teaches you everything from A to Z of what is real estate investing? How do you determine what type of real estate investing you want to do? Active or passive, single family, multifamily, small, big, in-state, out-of-state, short-term rental, long-term rental, right? You first have, there's so many options, right? You have to decide what it is that you want to do. And then it walks you through how to find an investment, how to evaluate the investment, how to build a team, tax efficiency, right? You name it, it's all within that course. And then there's also a course inside of Freedom and Legacy if you decide that you want to scale to be a general partner. So that would be like the work that I do at Black Swan Real Estate, where we run a very large firm, or like the work that you heard that Aditi does of working with other passive investors, and you're serving as the general partner. So you're putting the deal together, you're finding the deal, vetting it, raising capital from investors, providing returns to investors, that sort of work. So the whole spectrum is there inside of the vault so that you can dip into that education. It's like basically a big encyclopedia that you have access to. And then about once a quarter, we have a real estate specific call. So in that evening, I ask that anyone hold any coaching questions they have about other domains in life, and they just bring their real estate questions. Those are almost universally our most well-attended calls. People just love them. They love to check in on their deals. They love to hear what other people are up to, get a sense of what's happening in all the different markets, both geographically and different asset classes. So those are really amazing calls. And then a lot of what we do in Freedom and Legacy is what is called open coaching. So what that means is we're all in our group together, and I'll usually have some sort of teaching for the evening. And then when that teaching is done, people just raise their hand, and you can be coached on whatever it is that comes up for you. There's literally no topic that's off limits. And so people can check in on their real estate deals and their real estate questions basically in any week during that open coaching portion. If you're not interested in real estate and you're thinking, I'm more interested in the stuff that Elaine brings in terms of her background as a psychiatrist and understanding human behavior and nervous system regulation and values and time management and leadership and entrepreneurship and relationships, the program is so expansive that it's almost as though you wouldn't even notice that there was the real estate portion, right? You just may choose not to watch those videos in the vault. Maybe you would choose to skip those specific real estate calls that we have, although I find that people like to come to them because they get motivated and inspired. And we've had a lot of people throughout Freedom and Legacy who came into Freedom and Legacy not investing in real estate, and then over time have built a portfolio for themselves. So Freedom and Legacy is designed for both. You can get as much real estate education and forward momentum as you would like. And it's also a fully fledged program outside of the real estate work that we do.
One of the questions that I just had come in from chat was, can my spouse have access to the materials as well as the live calls? And I think that's perfect with that balance you just talked about of real estate or not, because I can think of examples of plenty of people in our program who maybe aren't very involved in their real estate business because they're running a practice or a coaching program, but their spouse is running their short-term rentals. So I'll let you speak to that, Elaine, but just the real estate and the different interests of the spouses, yes, your spouse can join, and I'm sure Elaine can tell you more about that.
Yeah, that was another thing that was just always very important to me from the very beginning when I created Freedom and Legacy. There's many programs out there that are maybe like a women's only program or a men's only program. Most programs, right, it's like whoever enrolled in that program, that's who it's for. And I think it's because my husband Nick and I, many of you know him or you've heard me speak about him this week, we've just always been so close, right? We have 5 children, so there's a lot of closeness that comes when your family is that big. We built and we run Black Swan Real Estate together. His office is literally like 6 feet in that direction, right? We're just separated by one wall. So it was just always so important to me that if people choose, they have the opportunity for their spouse or their partner to participate. How I think of it is, I am teaching people to speak a different language. And if you say speak English at home, and then you go home and you start speaking in French, your spouse might feel a little bit behind, right? And that might actually create a little bit of a divide between people. And I don't want that to happen. So I've always welcomed spouses or partners, and there's a wide spectrum there. So just like there's a wide spectrum of people who are very interested in real estate, we've got Aditi raising $8 million in 1 year. We've got me running a portfolio of almost $500 million.
Awesome.
We have people that aren't doing any real
Here-
estate investing yet, people who have, one single family home. We have that whole spectrum there. It's the same thing with spouses or partners. We have people who are single, people who have never been married, people who are divorced, single parents. We have people who have been married for eons. We have spouses who come to every single call and they really kind of run it as a joint program. We have spouses who might dip in if they have a particular question or they want to troubleshoot something together. Many spouses or partners join for our relationship week and really get a lot of benefit out of that. You do get 2 tickets, two in-person and 2 virtual tickets to Real Estate Real Life. Most people came with their spouse or partner. Some people brought a friend. Some people came alone. And then spouses or partners would be able to come to our Freedom and Legacy exclusive event as well. So wide spectrum there. But if you're feeling like your spouse or partner would want to participate, maybe you've been looking for a place where you could grow together and learn to speak the same language together and be surrounded by not just other high performers, but other high performing couples, this is the place for you.
We do love our Freedom and Legacy couples. You've created such a wonderful environment for people to experience this coaching for themselves personally, but also together with their spouse. It's unlike anything I've ever seen, and I think it's a really beautiful thing. So if you have been interested and that's something you'd like to bring your spouse or your partner along with, we welcome that in Freedom and Legacy. We encourage that. Thank you, Elaine, for sharing that. You talked a bit about open coaching, and I know we've talked about what the schedule generally looks like for weeknights and times of the coaching sessions, but what exactly does this open coaching in a group setting look like?
Yeah, it is a place where people raise their hand, right? We're in the Zoom room together. You raise your digital hand, and I call on people just kind of one by one, and whatever comes up for people is what we coach on. Sometimes it might be maybe a very tactical question of how do I do a lease renewal? Or I'm having a challenging time getting bookings on my short-term rental. Do you have any suggestions for that? It might be kind of a mid-range question of something we a lot of times parenting questions come up, right? It's a big topic for many people of how do I relate to my teenage child, or maybe my children are young adults and they're fleeing the nest, and how do I continue my relationship with them or guide them or those sorts of things. And then there's some deep questions, right? There's things like, I'm struggling in my marriage, or I have this big financial goal I'm going toward. There's truly anything, right? We cover all of the domains of life. One of the frameworks that we have inside of Freedom and Legacy is the All Set framework. All Set is skill set, mindset, heart set, body set, and soul set. And within those 5 domains of life, and then we've also talked about the 8 categories in life through Visioning Week, it really covers who we are as whole people. And we cover all of that in Freedom and Legacy. So there's truly no question that's off limits in open coaching. Really, the only time that things are kind of niche down is when we have those real estate weeks throughout the year. And I do ask that people keep the questions that time real estate focused, so that we have that space for that. And then another way that we support people in all of the domains in life is we have a very active community on WhatsApp. We have a Facebook community. We also have a WhatsApp community. Both of them are pretty active. I would say WhatsApp's maybe a little bit more active because people just kind of check in there, daily check-ins, building friendships there. And in there, we have all sorts of threads. We have a health thread, a parenting thread, a real estate thread, a private practice thread, a working with VAs thread, travel thread, event thread. Like there's so many of them. There's a general discussions thread. And that's another place where you can go if you have a question about travel, or a question about employment, or a question about delegating. Maybe you're working with a VA, or you have a personal assistant. So there's all these different ways to get all of the domains of your life covered inside of Freedom and Legacy.
We just had another question about CME come into the chat. So the question is, I'm retired, but I still have an active medical license. Can I still deduct the cost for CME?
That would be a question for your CPA, because you would need to have income to deduct that against. So that would be a question for your CPA specifically, but what you would get from us would be the receipt showing your investment in Freedom and Legacy, and then the document showing that you had completed those 30 hours of CME. That might also be a simple question for like your state medical board, right? If you're keeping your license active, you probably have some expenses related to keeping that license active, and maybe keeping like your DEA active and some other things. And so this expense would kind of be lumped in with those types of expense, and either your state medical board or your CPA could give you some direction on the deductibility of those expenses.
All right, next question we received. What is included in the vault of recordings?
It is expansive. I think there's probably probably somewhere in the order of maybe 300 recordings in there that cover the full range of freedom and legacy. It starts with the Visioning to Reality series, which kind of builds off of what we do in our visioning week, where you go from visioning to reality. So you're going to see a little bit of that tomorrow in our implementation coaching if you join us for that or you catch the replay, where we say, okay, now that you concretely know what it is that you want, how do we get it on the calendar? What are the appointments? Who are the people that you need to be in contact with? What are the resources? What's step A, B, C? Making that a reality, and then checking back in with that frequently so that you're constantly attuning yourself back to the vision. We have what I call the Momentum Accelerator, which is all of the fundamental teachings of freedom and legacy around time management, telling yourself an empowering story, energy management, physiology management, values alignment, all of those things that make us who we are, not the things we need to accomplish or the goals. That's more in the Visioning to Reality series, but more of the things that bring us joy so that we feel aligned and that we're living in the identity that we actually want to live in. There is a body set program. Body set is mindset, but for the body. So mindset is things like goals and time management and affirmations and the way we think about ourselves. And body set is a concept that I've trademarked that's about nervous system regulation, staying calm under pressure, keeping our energy high, keeping our energy in the state that we want it to be in. Do you want to be excited and full of joy and passion, or do you want to feel more centered and grounded? And it's going to change throughout the day or throughout the week based on what it is that you're doing. So there's a whole body set course inside of the vault. All of our guest coaches over the last many years are inside of the vault. So you'll have access to all of that richness over the last several years. Our real estate courses, both of them are inside of the vault. There's probably more that I'm not thinking of. That's where we store the replays each week. So they go in video format into the vault, and then they also go into the private podcast, and you get access to both of those. Probably the extreme majority of our people listen to the replays on the podcast app. It's just a little more user friendly. You can pause it, you can fast forward. Just a little bit easier. And most people are kind of listening to some sort of podcast throughout the week, but the videos are all available. And anytime there's something like a worksheet or a PDF or a calculator or those sorts of things, that goes into the vault. So basically, if it's not an audio only lesson, it goes into the vault.
I think you did a good job covering it. It's expansive, like you said. Like there's so many different things in there. I think of it as like this Mary Poppins bag of tools that you can use. Like things are just it's bottomless. Like
Yeah.
there's something there for whatever you need. The net worth tracker. I go there to look at the guest coach we had about credit card points.
Mm-hmm.
So in addition to thinking like, oh, I know I was coached on this really good topic, I want to go listen to that coaching session again. There's all different kinds of resources for every area of life that you can go back to. So
Yep.
the content vault is amazing.
Sometimes I'll pull out of the vault and I'll do a specific teaching around it. Sometimes when someone has an open coaching question call, I'll coach them right on it live. And then I might say, go into the vault and watch these 3 videos, or go check this thing out to kind of further this concept. And sometimes maybe in, say, like the WhatsApp group, someone might ask a question of, I'll just give a real estate example just because it's top of mind since we talked about real estate. Like, what's the difference between commercial lending and conventional lending? And I'll say, oh, go watch this video in the vault. And then if you have any other questions, pop them here into the WhatsApp group or raise your hand in the next coaching call. So the vault is something that we go into as a group and we do some work together. And then it's also kind of, I call it an encyclopedia. I think Mary Poppins bag is like such a cooler way to describe it, right? It's also a place that people can go to for the specific thing that you're looking for. I don't think anyone uses it like A to Z. Wasn't really designed for that. I think that would be like, honestly, kind of pretty overwhelming. It's designed to go in and find the lessons that you specifically want and need to advance your goals are, and use it as an encyclopedia. Pull out that lesson and take from that lesson.
Wonderful. For those who are ready to move forward, we did have a question. What are the payment plan options?
Yeah, we have a pay in full discount this year. So if you do a one-time pay in full, it's $15,000 for the entire year, which is actually a 13-month program since we get started in December. And then that also includes your 4 complimentary tickets for Real Estate Real Life. Or you can do a payment plan if you prefer, and that would be 4 monthly payments of $39.99.
Wonderful. If you are ready to move forward, go ahead and enroll now at freedomandlegacyblueprint.com. You'll see the button for each of those payment plans that Elaine just shared. We had a question come in that we already touched on a little bit, but just to reiterate, our coaching call schedule for 2026 will always meet at 7 p.m. Central Time on Zoom. Elaine can speak to this a little bit more if you'd like, but people generally come when works for their schedule. Either you catch the replay if you can't make it on time, maybe you come in an hour late as you're wrapping up with work, and then it'll be weeknights. Q1 and Q3 will be on Tuesdays, Q2 and Q4 on Wednesdays. So that schedule is already pretty set for your year, just so you can pencil that into everyone's very busy schedules. We're kind of wrapping up the questions that I have here. I saved this question towards the end. It's a big question, but I really love this one because nobody can capture it as beautifully as you can, Elaine. But what, in your words, is Freedom and Legacy Blueprint all about?
Mm. You know, you mentioned that our members started calling it everything coaching. I didn't come up with that designation. They started calling it everything coaching. And I think that really captures it. I am a big believer that freedom, many people find us through the world of financial freedom. Freedom is very multifaceted, and freedom really begins with who we are, with our identity, with our relationship to our inner child, the younger versions of ourself, and our future self. I no doubt get that from my world, you know, as a psychiatrist and doing therapy with people over the years and having, you know, such an immersion in human development. And so we cover all of the domains of freedom. We cover things like identity, habits, designing your day, designing your week, time management, telling yourself empowering stories, somatic practices like meditation or Reiki or massage or sensory deprivation floats. We cover the very tactical things like feeling empowered in your finances, doing your net worth tracking every single month so that not only you become good at it, but you desensitize yourself from any stories you might tell yourself of like, well, I'm not good at money, or I have scarcity in money, or I don't know what to do. When you're practicing it every single month, you become very proud of yourself and you see the needle moving. And not only do we bring down any like shame or indecision or confusion that people have around finances, we empower them and they look forward to doing their net worth tracking once a month. I'm always thinking about, you know, what I can bring into Freedom and Legacy that's timely. In any given year, I have about 60% of the curriculum ready to go. Like I have 60% of the 2026 curriculum ready to go. I know our core lessons, what we need to do. But then because we do open coaching and I'm hearing from our members every single week, and then we have the WhatsApp group and I'm hearing from our members every single day, I listen for the pain points. I listen for the growth opportunities, for the things that are unique to that particular group, for what's happening in the world at that time, how things are changing in the markets or how things are changing with AI, or I mean, you name it, right? The world is always changing around us. And so there's this like flex that I'm bringing things into the program that I think are most likely to be impactful for people. We have member-led sessions where members are bringing in what's impacting them. We have our wisdom circles where you get into groups with your peers and you talk about whatever's on your mind, and then you get the wisdom back from the people in that small group. It's usually about 4 people in that group. It's breakout sessions in Zoom. So when our members started calling it everything coaching, I felt like that fit really well. And those of you that have known me for a while, you know the various parts of my life, and I kind of bring all of them together in Freedom and Legacy. And those of you that are new to our world, I hope you're seeing that through Visioning Week, that we cover the full spectrum of human development, of who you are as a human. It's not just your net worth or just your habits or just how you spend your time or just your relationships. You are the sum of all of those things, and that's what makes you uniquely human. And then the thing that we're constantly connecting to is this future self. I would say that's a differentiator between us and, other programs that are out there, is we're constantly checking in with what is it that you uniquely want in your future self? What do you see? What really makes your heart sing? And how do we get back to that? So we have a quarterly alignment call where we do that as a group. When I'm doing coaching with people, I'm often asking well, what's in your vision? What is it that you want? What would a perfect situation look like to you? What would an ideal solution look like to you? Someone can ask a question and I can think that XYZ is an ideal solution. But if they think that ABC is an ideal solution, I need to help guide them toward, what it is that they want in their life. And so we do that and we cover that. And that's why we have such staggering progress so quickly. It's because each person is moving toward their future self and what they uniquely want inside of this support and this structure and this community and this specific language and this specific recipe for getting there, but each person is getting the outcomes that they want. This isn't like an educational class where we're all learning the same lessons. It's not like a to-do list where we're all checking off the same things. Everyone is working toward their unique specific goals inside of the broader framework.
Well, you've captured what Freedom and Legacy is all about so beautifully. I would love to take a moment to read a few testimonials from our members because I think there's no better way to capture the feeling of Freedom and Legacy Blueprint than to hear from the members itself. So we have from Dr. Courtney Downs, Elaine showed me how to focus on progress and grow in all areas of life simultaneously. Dr. Victoria Schenkel shared, Elaine helped me find the confidence to finally step into active real estate investing. Dr. Jenny Ekstrom said, Elaine's coaching cracked my brain wide open to a life I didn't even know was possible. Dr. Wendy Lynn shared, the coaching felt like being part of a family. I learned things I didn't even realize I needed to know. And Dr. Meredith Schur reflected, I've never encountered smarter, more compassionate, and more inspiring people than in the Freedom and Legacy Blueprint community. Elaine helps us see the power within ourselves. Absolutely beautiful. I could read testimonials from the group all day long. I think they just capture the energy and the drive and the love and the support of the community so well. The live coaching calls with Elaine are electric, but that community support that's there for you constantly is just so loving and supportive, and it's such a beautiful community. I would say I have another minute or so for questions to come in, but one of the big questions we have here is, how do I sign up?
Yeah, enrollment is open. We've not been open in a year, so this is a really special time coming after Visioning Week. You can sign up at freedomandlegacyblueprint.com. Everything that we talked about today, you can see right there if you wanted to look at the features or CME, or there's an FAQ section there on the website. So if you wanted to go through that again, that's all there. But when you feel ready to join us, you can either use the pay in full discount or the monthly plan. Both of the buttons are right there. Enrollment closes on Monday, November 24th at midnight Central. So when you feel ready to join, you can go ahead and do that at freedomandlegacyblueprint.com. And then we get started with our very first call on Wednesday, December 3rd at 7 p.m. Central. As I mentioned earlier in our call here today, Freedom and Legacy, we call it a year-long program, but it's really like a 13-month program because we get started right away in December. We'll have a call on December 3rd at 7 p.m. Central, and then December 17th at 7 p.m. Central, and then we start with our weekly calls in January. We've had an amazing group enroll this year, both in terms of our renewals. We have an 88% renewal rate, and really something, Rachel, you and I need to do is calculate how many people have renewed since the very beginning. It's a very high percentage. I wouldn't be surprised if it's probably 78 or 80%. I know for certain our renewal rate from last year to this year is 88%, but I haven't calculated people who have renewed all of the years that we've offered the program, but it's a very high percentage. And I share that because that speaks to the value, right? That speaks to the growth that people find, the return on investment, the return on their time, the relationships that they've formed, and how freedom and legacy becomes a part of their identity. It becomes a part of the constant manifestation of the future self, and continuing to expand and advance the future self, and then move toward that, and then expand and advance it again, and then do that over and over and over. And our testimonials speak to that, and our success stories speak to that. And then we've already had an amazing group of new people join us this week. So if you're one of those people and you're listening in just to learn more about the structure of the program, welcome. We are so excited to have you. Rachel and I were looking at names last night and just saying, like, we're excited to bring in this new energy, and thinking about people that we brought in new last year and how they've, folded so nicely into the group and have brought so much richness to the group. And we're like, this is our next group, and we're so excited, and we would absolutely love it if you joined us too. So enrollment will be open until Monday, November 24th at midnight Central. You can join us whenever you'd like. Just head over to the website, freedomandlegacyblueprint.com.
All right. I think that wraps it up for today. If you're listening to the replay, or if you have lingering questions that didn't get answered, feel free to email me, Rachel@blackswanteam.com, or Elaine at blackswanteam.com. We will both be available for you. We want to make sure that you feel fully supported moving into making this decision. But it has been just such a beautiful, powerful week of visioning. So thank you for being here with us. Thank you for coming and asking your questions. We're here to support you, and we would love to welcome you into Freedom and Legacy Blueprint.
Yes, absolutely. And if you'd like to join us tomorrow, Saturday morning, November 22nd at 11 a.m. Central, I'm going to do some implementation coaching. So what we will do in implementation coaching is take the quarterly planning that we worked on yesterday and start to make that some action steps. Start to work through any potential obstacles that you think might come in your way, so that you're prepared for those in advance. And then we'll also have some open coaching tomorrow. So that's a chance for you to see, like, what is open coaching? What's it all about? That's a place where you come, you raise your hand, I'll call on you, you'll ask whatever question or clarification or thing is coming up for you in Visioning Week, and I'll coach you through that live. So I'm looking forward to that. I've not done implementation coaching during Visioning Week before, but we're always thinking about how we can improve and make things better and add even more value. So excited to be together with you tomorrow, Saturday, November 22nd at 11 a.m. Central, if you're able to join us for that. And then we'll see you inside of Freedom and Legacy.
Yay! Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night. Thanks for coming, or thanks for catching the replay. Bye.